Chapter 1793. Just take it? After the meeting, Zhang went directly to the Quartermaster of Fremons to ask for war supplies. The aliens from other teams were a little surprised when they saw this. After all, aliens rarely use hot weapons in battle. Even those who rely on guns and cannons to fight will use special weapons. The mass-produced bullets are for ordinary soldiers. Only Emperor Shirtian had spied on Zhang Yi's ability through Time Overture and knew that he had the fighting method of Lord of War. Emperor Shirtian originally suspected that it was the Fremons who stole the core of the super-large mechanical life form, so he was eager to see Zhang Yi make a fortune from them, so he followed with a smile and planned to watch the show. Newton and Brian followed them out. Seeing this, Newton pushed his gold-rimmed glasses, and a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Let's go and have a look." Brian looked surprised and spread his hands and said, "What's so good about this? You know, those weapons can only be left in the warehouse to rot, and it takes a lot of effort to keep them. If it were me, I would rather sink them into the ice sea." "That's not necessarily true." Newton looked at Brian and said lightly, "You don't understand weapons. Nowadays, the weapons of countries around the world have long been upgraded. In order to fight against the aliens, the original old weapons have all been eliminated. Whether it is firearms, chariots, or ammunition, they have all been improved. So the weapons in Fremons are all world-class equipment, which is very valuable." Brian spread his hands. "But for the Epsilon-class aliens, it is not very useful, right?" Newton turned his head to look at Zhang Yi not far away and said lightly, "Although I don't know what he wants to do, but from my understanding of him, he will not do meaningless things. This time, I'm afraid Fremons will pay the price for its contempt." Hearing Zhang Yi's request, the officials of Fremons were very strange, but according to the agreement reached between Bodaka and aliens from various countries, he must unconditionally offer the strategic equipment needed by the other party. "Please follow me, Mr. Chaos. We in Fremons have the largest arsenal in the world," the officials said proudly. Although the economy of Fremons is not developed, it is far behind even compared with the Jiangnan region. But their military industry is extremely developed, and the overall country is developing in an uncoordinated direction. He did not see the meaningful smile on Zhang Yi's face. "Okay, thank you." Zhang Yi and his team rode snowmobiles all the way to the Fremons arsenal. The arsenal is located in the southeastern suburbs of Samran City. From a distance, Zhang Yi saw a spectacular scene. On the vast snowfield, snow chariots and tanks were neatly arranged as far as the eye could see, like a huge steel jungle. However, most of these weapons have been eliminated, and only a few can be used on the battlefield. The overly heavy steel chariots and tanks are already difficult to be mobile on the battlefield. Compared with the mechanical life forms of mechanical civilization, they are as clumsy as backward products made by monkeys out of mud. Passing through this old-time arsenal of arsenals, the road was lined with Fremon soldiers with live ammunition and thick combat uniforms. The Quartermaster opened their arsenal for Zhang Yi. This is a huge warehouse located underground. Some aliens from other countries followed with the intention of watching the excitement. The Quartermaster had a proud and calm expression on his face. As an official in charge of the arsenal in Fremons, he was proud of the world's largest arsenal of munitions. He brought Zhang Yi and others to the underground. The space was so huge that the eyes could not see the end. Countless munitions were densely stacked. Various new weapons for aliens were placed on the shelves, and the boxes of ammunition were stacked more than 10 meters high. The Quartermaster had his hands behind his back, and his eagle nose was full of complacent eyes. "According to the order of our superiors, we will unconditionally meet the munitions needed by friendly forces from various countries to fight in Fremons. So, please move as much as you can. Don't be polite, take as much as you want." He generously stretched out his left hand towards the huge arsenal. Behind Zhang Yi, Deng Shentong could hardly control the muscles on his face. He looked at the Quartermaster with extremely strange eyes and began to sympathize with him in his heart. Zhang Yi crossed his arms and said calmly, "Let me confirm again. Can Bodaka represent the top leaders of Fremons?" The Quartermaster was stunned for a moment, then nodded in confirmation. Mr. Bodaka is a member of the Fremon's three-person team. The orders he issued represent the will of the top leaders of Fremons. He still disapproved in his heart. What a strong man from Huashu country. He has never seen the world. It's just some arms. I'm afraid he was stunned, right? Zhang nodded. I feel relieved when you say that. In other words, Bodaka said that we can take as many weapons as we want. We just do it. The Quartermaster disagreed. You are just so few people. How much can you take? Don't be polite. Just do it. Deng Shintong wanted to laugh and began to pray for the Quartermaster in his heart. Emperor Shirtian also looked gloating. The expression of disaster. Zhang nodded. Then in front of the Quartermaster, he unfolded his own Senluo Wanxiang. 3,000 dimensional gates completely covered the entire weapons and equipment warehouse. The next moment, in the huge weapons warehouse, all the weapons were pulled by a powerful force, soared into the air, and flew into the other dimension. The expression on the Quartermaster's face changed from arrogance to astonishment, and then to pale face and horror. No. Stop, what are you doing? But Zhang Yi's speed was too fast. It only took 2 seconds to make this huge warehouse empty. The empty warehouse gives people a clean and empty beauty. Zhang Yi closed the dimensional door and smiled and nodded at the pale-faced Quartermaster. Thank you for your generosity. After that, Zhang Yi turned around and planned to leave. Emperor Shirtian, who watched the scene, couldn't help laughing, and he did not hide his ridicule of the Fremon's people at all. Newton raised his gold-rimmed glasses. So that's it.
He didn't know much about Zhang Yi. He was not in the main battlefield at that time.
He only knew some of his spatial attributes through Cartier's and others. And now, he has collected more intelligence on Zhang Yi. The huge alien space can accommodate a terrifying amount of supplies. The specific size of the space is unknown. Griffin's eyes were full of surprise. Hey, where did all those weapons go? Is it his alien space? He suddenly looked serious. Then let me give you an example. If he can open multiple dimensional doors at the same time, such as sticking his head into the door and then popping out from another place, wouldn't he be able to do a lot of interesting things? The smile on its face gradually became perverted. You can experience it, being far away from his girlfriend. Newton was used to this perverted dog without moral integrity, so he resisted slapping it. Zhang Yi turned around and was about to leave. The Quartermaster came back to his senses from his astonishment. He was already soaked with sweat. Because of fear, he knew that if he let Zhang Yi go like this, he would be shot. After all, this arsenal is now 1/3 of the military reserves of the entire Samran city. Their million-strong army. Do they have to use guns without bullets as fire sticks to fight the mechanical army in the future? Wait a minute. Mr. Chaos, please wait a minute. He burst out at the fastest speed in his life, rushed to Zhang Yi, and faced this world-class alien, mustered up the courage to stare at him. You can't take all these weapons away. Zhang Yi smiled, and did not embarrass this little Quartermaster, but asked leisurely with his arms folded. Is there any problem? Even Bodaka promised me that I can withdraw weapons and equipment at will. You also admitted this. Why are you stopping me now? The Quartermaster felt so bitter at this time. He just said too much, and now he was slapped in the face. But I didn't expect you to take so much. Not to mention him. Even Bodhaja thought that no matter how greedy Zhang Yi was, at most he could take a few million rounds of ammunition. Who would have thought that he emptied the entire warehouse? Zhang Yi's face suddenly became serious. You are wrong to say that. We are here to help Fremons. We have agreed to all the conditions you proposed. Now, you don't want to give us any weapons at all. Is this Fremon's attitude? The Quartermaster was already crying. Yes, he himself did not realize that he was crying because he was too scared. A little bit. It's enough to arm a force of hundreds of thousands of people. I am just a small Quartermaster. Don't make things difficult for me. Otherwise, I will be executed. Zhang Yi and Deng Shintong, Liang Yu and others looked at each other, and everyone was holding back their laughter at this time. But Zhang Yi did not make things difficult for him. What he really wanted was Bodhaja. Okay, Then you go report to the officer in charge. I don't believe that Fremons is such a great country, and its representative can take back what he said. The quartermaster was as if he had been pardoned, and hurried to call Bodaka. At this time, Bodaka was complacently thinking about the next battle plan. He wanted to maximize the benefits of Fremons and minimize the risks, so how to make good use of the alien troops of various countries was the key. At this time, the communication sounded, and he frowned, somewhat unwilling to be disturbed at this time. But usually there was nothing important, and the lower-level officials did not dare to contact him directly. Bodaka answered the communication. "Hello. What's the matter?" The quartermaster stuttered and told the story again. Bodaka, who was originally proud of his face, turned green. He was so angry that he trembled all over. "Rogue, this chaos is really a rogue. I want to talk to him directly," Bodaka said angrily. The quartermaster breathed a sigh of relief. Now that Bodaka was talking directly to Hundun, he could get rid of his responsibility. The quartermaster transferred the call to Zhang, and Bodaka's somewhat dissatisfied face appeared in front of Zhang. "Mr. Hundun, I heard that you emptied our arsenals?" Zhang shrugged his shoulders and said, "Why, you asked us to come and help you fight, but you feel sorry for even a little bit of weapons and equipment? No way, Bodaka." Dear viewers, please like and subscribe if not already. Thanks. Mr. Jia, I believe you are not that kind of person. Bodaka took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Of course, we will supply the necessary weapons and equipment unconditionally. However, what you do is no longer the amount of weapons required for routine combat readiness. This is different from what we talked about before." Zhang smiled. "Who said that? I can use all these weapons. Not only that, I'm worried that they won't be enough. So please ask your military factories to speed up production." Bodaka took a deep breath. "Chaos. Stop making trouble. There are only more than 100 of you in total. Unless you pull the army of Huashu Kingdom over, where can you use so many weapons and ammunition?" Zhang blinked. "In other words, as long as I can prove that I can use these weapons and ammunition, right?" Of course. But Hijia didn't believe that Zhang could use so many weapons and ammunition. It was totally unreasonable. Which alien drives a chariot and carries a giant machine gun to fight? Even if Zhang is a god of war, how many weapons can he use with his hands, feet, and shoulders? Okay. Zhang Yi's eyes became profound. "Then I'll let you take a good look." He glanced around. Although the warehouse was large, it was still small for what he was going to do next. Zhang Yi turned around and walked out of the armory, followed by the quartermaster. Indra, Newton, and others also followed out, wanting to see what Zhang Yi was going to do. This place is located on the outskirts of Samran City, and the sky and the earth are very empty. Zhang Yi said to Bodhijia lightly, "Watch carefully." As he spoke, he raised his right hand, with 5 fingers pointing to the sky. A series of huge dimensional gates opened in the sky. The next moment, dense, dark gun barrels and muzzles emerged from the dimensional gates, pointing coldly at the ground below. The sky darkened, like a huge black cloud covering everything around. Hundreds of thousands of guns and cannons pointed coldly at everything on the ground. When the Fremon soldiers saw this scene, they opened their mouths in horror, and their bodies were unable to move because of fear. Even Emperor Shirtian and Newton and others were shocked by this magnificent scene and took a deep breath, with deep light flowing in their eyes. Zhang Yi said to the stunned Bodaka in the image, "The biggest advantage of space-based ability users is sufficient logistical supplies. I alone can be an armed force of hundreds of thousands of people. So now, do you still think these weapons are too many?"